today we're back at Sabre Speed, previously known as Blackwing. We are doing part 2 of the turbocharged Yaris. We're going to be fully taking the engine out. The last episode that you've seen, obviously, if you haven't seen that, link down below, go back and watch it. The piston and everything else absolutely crapped itself, shall we say. It was all down in the bottom of the sump. So in today's video, we're going to strip this engine out completely, which I think it's pretty much nearly there. We're going to inspect the clutch. If it needs a new clutch, then we'll have to obviously put a new one in or inspect that. But again, if that's all good and the clutch is fine, we're going to go ahead and put the new engine in this. I believe at some point we are going to do a tear down on this engine and just inspect all the internals and everything else to see what damage it actually did. So that will possibly be in a part 3, or we may start that today. We don't know. It all depends, and we'll see how it goes. But all the socials for Sabre Speed as well, down in the description. Make sure you're giving them a follow on Facebook and all that sort of stuff on Instagram. And make sure you are obviously hitting them up for remapping. If you haven't seen the remapping video on the 350, make sure you go back. We'll put the link down in the description. Again, sounds absolutely awesome and insane. The remaps that they do here are so in depth, and they actually work wonders. The 350 feels like a completely different car. So without further ado, we're going to jump in straight to this, and we will see you guys when we've took this engine out. Jack has started jacking the car up. He's also removed the battery. Now this is because he has to take the shafts out of the gearbox in order to remove the engine. We are going to use the engine lift to obviously pull this out, but again, we need to make sure that we're doing it safely and properly, hence why we are taking the shafts out as well. The shafts come out of the engine pretty easy, but you do have to just give them quite a bit of a wiggle. Sometimes you'd have to take the arms off from underneath the car as well to help you actually pull the tyres out, to allow the shaft to actually come out of the gearbox. Now, once that's been done, the engine mount obviously comes off, but you need to make sure you're obviously hooking up the engine first to the actual engine crane. Obviously, when that's in, you can then proceed to lifting it, make sure everything's all out the way. If everything is out the way, again, it will come out easy, but you will find that you have to swing it around a little bit, especially with the gearbox on as well.
Shivers ran through my spine with the freezing moonlight. It's long after midnight, but my eyes are open wide, dying of inner pain.
So we're in the backyard here at Sabre Speed. Now what we're going to do is obviously put the other engine in. We've got to inspect the gearbox and the clutch as well, because he needs to make sure that the clutch is okay to just go straight back in. But now it's a case of swapping everything back over, putting the new engine in, which we've shown you in the boot on the introduction video. If you haven't seen that, make sure you go back to the introduction video, again down in the description. Make sure you're hitting that follow, make sure your subscribe button's on and notifications icon too, because you will see us finish this Yaris, and you'll probably see it also going out and being mapped as well at the same time. So see you soon. So now the engine's out, it makes it so much easier to actually get to the gearbox. So once all the bolts are all undone, we can then open the gearbox and take it off, and access to the clutch and the flywheel and such. To take that off, obviously you've got to undo all the bolts. Once that's off, you can inspect it to see if there's any damage. It is down to the rivets in some places. Now this is like wearing away, uneven, so I think it may want a new clutch, but we'll decide that later on down the line. We're going to start stripping out everything else of the gearbox and then switching the new engine over as well. Now the old engine's out, we need to put it on an engine stand. This will allow us to be able to take everything off of the car. We need to do this because we've got to take the new engine out the back and transfer everything over, so like the inlet manifolds and all that sort of stuff. We also shoved the wheel jacks underneath the tyres to pull it out. This will allow us just to get to the back of the car, because obviously we'd pushed it in to get the old engine out. Now the old engine is obviously out the car and on the crane, we can actually start transferring stuff over, so taking all the manifolds off, intake manifold and obviously the turbo and everything else as well, and putting that onto the new engine. Here the old wiring loom that has to come off, because that was just cut out so the engine could be pulled. Also the aircon pump has just been taken out as well.
Maybe I've gone insane, but it seems like your voice is calling my name. It's calling my name. It's calling my name.
The engine mounts from the blown engine are coming off. These are obviously all going to be switched over to the new one, along with the alternator and ancillaries taken off of the blown engine. We're going to put them on the working engine and just swap them all over. This is going to be obviously a time process of taking off and rebolting back on to make sure everything's there for when it goes back in. The clutch was damaged, so the customer is obviously going to be paying for a new clutch to have that put in as well.
And I know you can save me. I know you can set me free. Burning down all my past, leaving it all behind. And I know you can save me. I know you can set me free. Free, 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 free.
So as you all know, if you're following the VXR videos as well, we have put a fourth piston in it. She is running. You will see it in 4 videos. But if you do want to buy one of them tickets, link down below as well for that. As well as the pillar pods, we're selling the pillar pods for the Corsa DVXR, Corsa EVXR. To be fair, they'll fit in any standard Corsa E or Corsa D. So we're selling them quite fast. We are going to be doing the triples and the doubles and the singles. We're hoping by the time this video goes up, they will be live and we will have them, like the doubles and the singles. The triple is already on sale. Link down below and go and get that if you need to.
But my eyes are open wide, dying of inner pain. I can hardly feel it. Maybe I've gone insane, but it seems like your voice is calling my name. It's calling my name. It's calling my name. Wake me up from my dreams, full of sadness and tears. And I know you can save me. I know you can set me free. Burning down all my past, leaving it all behind. And I know you can save me. I know you can set me free. Free, 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 free.
We're back at our unit now. We did forget to record an outro, but what we're going to do is we're going to quickly just break down what you just saw and why we left it where we did. Now, all the stuff from the old engine went onto the new engine that we could. Obviously, the strap was in the way with the crane, engine crane, so you couldn't put the manifolds on, but we did start to take the turbo manifold off. Taking the turbo manifold off, we noticed a few things, which is why we kind of stopped a little bit. Now, the actuator itself on the turbo, you have a rod that sits through the metal plate. That shouldn't be touching either side to cause any friction. It should be sat in the middle. Now that was causing a problem. We also noticed it didn't line up properly, so the rod was like slightly bent, so to speak. We then put the gun on the end of the actuator, put a load of pressure through it, and then we realised that the actual wastegate itself was not even opening, like starting to open until 17-18 psi, which is a hell of a lot of psi for such a small engine. Now, it was fully open only when it reached between like 25 and 30 psi. Now that is a lot of psi to run through that engine. So that is the reason why it actually blew itself. It overboosted itself, couldn't deal with it, and it just went literally everywhere. The next step for that now is to order some new parts, sort the actuator issue out. We took the bracket off of the turbo itself, and for it to sit exactly where it should be, it needed to be up by a good inch, like 1.5 inches, 2 inch. Whether that's sitting where it should without it rubbing or causing any effect, that actuator has to be readjusted and all that sort of stuff. So we couldn't really go any further. We couldn't put the engine in to the Yaris, but you will see all that go on. You will see it all finished. You'll see that in the next part. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, notification icon on, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.